Pasta. You think you know how to cook it. You've boiled water, thrown in some spaghetti, drained it, added sauce. Done, right? And that's where most people get it wrong. So catastrophically, embarrassingly wrong. Because Italian home cooks have been perfecting this craft for generations, and they know things about pasta that will fundamentally change how you cook it forever. Today we are counting down 35 of the most clever pasta tricks that real Italians actually use. And by the time we hit number 1, your pasta nights will never ever be the same again. Number 35. Never ever rinse your cooked pasta. This one drives Italian chefs absolutely crazy when they see it in foreign kitchens. Rinsing pasta washes away the surface starch that helps sauce cling to every single strand. That cloudy, starchy cooking water you're washing down the drain? That's the bonding agent between your pasta and your sauce. Italian home cooks never rinse. They drain quickly and move straight to the pan. Number 34. Toast dried pasta in a dry pan before boiling it. This is a technique that Italian chefs in southern Italy use for specific dishes, particularly pasta dishes with stronger flavors like pasta con le sarde or certain seafood preparations. Place your dried pasta in a dry skillet over medium heat for about 3 to 4 minutes, moving it around constantly until it turns a very light golden color and smells slightly nutty. When you then boil it, the pasta develops a more complex, slightly toasty flavor that pairs beautifully with assertive sauces. It also changes the texture slightly, giving the cooked pasta a firmer, more resilient bite. Number 33. Save at least 2 full cups of pasta cooking water before you drain anything. Italian chefs call this liquid gold, and they are absolutely serious about it. The starchy, salted water that your pasta has been boiling in is an emulsification agent that can transform any sauce from greasy and broken to glossy and perfectly cohesive. Add it to your sauce a splash at a time while tossing the pasta and watch what happens to the texture. The starch binds fat and water together in a way that nothing else can replicate. Keep a mug next to the pot so you never forget. Number 32. Add a small piece of Parmigiano Reggiano rind directly into your pasta sauce while it simmers. This is something Italian home cooks in Emilia-Romagna do without even thinking about it. The rind slowly dissolves and releases deep, umami-rich flavor into the sauce over the course of 20 to 30 minutes. It does not make the sauce taste cheesy. It makes it taste rounder, deeper, and more complex in a way that is difficult to identify but impossible to ignore. Keep your used Parmigiano rinds in the freezer and pull one out every time you make a slow-cooked sauce. Number 31. Never add oil to your pasta cooking water. This is one of the most persistent myths in home cooking outside of Italy, and Italian cooks find it genuinely baffling. The idea is that oil prevents pasta from sticking, but what it actually does is coat the pasta in a thin film of fat that prevents sauce from adhering to it later. If you want to prevent clumping, stir your pasta frequently in the first 2 minutes of cooking when the starch is most active, and make sure your water is at a full rolling boil before the pasta goes in. Number 30. When making cacio e pepe, toast your black pepper in a dry pan first. Roman pasta makers treat this step as non-negotiable. Whole black peppercorns or coarsely cracked pepper goes into a dry pan over medium heat for about 60 to 90 seconds until fragrant, then gets moved to the side before the other ingredients come in. This releases the volatile aromatic compounds in the pepper that are otherwise locked away. The difference between untoasted and toasted pepper in cacio e pepe is the difference between a flat dish and one that genuinely tingles on your palate. Number 29. Use a wide, flat pan rather than a deep pot when finishing pasta in sauce. Italian chefs finish pasta in sauce almost universally, and the wide pan is essential to the technique. More surface area means the pasta cooks faster in the sauce. The water evaporates more efficiently, and you can toss the pasta with more control. A deep pot traps steam and makes tossing awkward. Pull your pasta 2 minutes before the package says it is done. Add it to the pan with your sauce and a ladle of pasta water and let it finish cooking there. Number 28. Bloom your tomato paste in olive oil before adding anything else to a tomato sauce. Italian home cooks in the south, particularly in Sicily and Campania, Understand that raw tomato paste has a sharp, slightly metallic edge that needs to be cooked out. Add your tomato paste directly to heated olive oil and stir it constantly for 2 to 3 minutes until it darkens slightly and smells sweet and caramelized. This process is called the Maillard reaction, and it develops entirely new flavor compounds in the paste that you simply cannot get any other way. Number 27. When making fresh pasta, let your dough rest for at least 30 minutes wrapped tightly before rolling it. This is a fundamental rule that Italian pasta makers in Bologna follow without exception. The resting period allows the gluten network that developed during kneading to relax completely. If you try to roll pasta dough that has not rested, it will spring back constantly, resist every pass through the machine and produce pasta that is tough and chewy rather than silky and tender. The rest changes everything, and it costs you nothing but patience. Number 26. Add a whole peeled garlic clove to your olive oil and remove it before it browns. This is the aglio method that Italian cooks across the country use when they want garlic flavor without garlic heat. The clove perfumes the oil gently as it warms, releasing its aromatic compounds into the fat without the bitterness that comes from browning or burning. Once the clove turns pale golden, pull it out. What is left is oil with a whisper of garlic that will coat your pasta with something that tastes sophisticated and layered rather than sharp and aggressive. Number 25. Always use a fork to eat long pasta, never a spoon. But the Italian chef trick here is how you use the fork. You do not twirl it against the bowl. You anchor the fork tines against the edge of the plate at an angle, take 2 or 3 strands at a time, and rotate slowly. This creates a compact, neat bundle that does not fall apart. Italian chefs teach this at culinary schools in Naples, and the reasoning is practical as well as aesthetic. Smaller amounts twirled properly means every bite has the right pasta to sauce ratio from start to finish. Number 24. When making bolognese, add whole milk to the meat mixture before the wine. This is a technique from traditional Italian home cooks in Emilia-Romagna that most people outside Italy have never encountered. Add about half a cup of whole milk to your ground meat after it has browned and let it simmer until fully absorbed before you add any wine or tomatoes. The milk tenderizes the meat at a molecular level, breaking down the tougher muscle fibers, and results in a ragu that is remarkably soft and rich. The acidity from the wine and tomatoes comes after, balancing the fat from the milk. Number 23. Grate your Parmigiano Reggiano on the finest holes of your grater, not the large ones. Italian home cooks grate cheese directly over pasta in the finest possible texture because fine cheese melts instantly on contact with hot pasta and integrates into the sauce. Coarsely grated cheese sits on top in clumps and never fully incorporates. Take your block of Parmigiano and use the side of the box grater with the smallest holes, the ones that almost shred rather than grate. The result is a snowy, powdery texture that dissolves into the pasta the moment it touches it. Number 22. When making a simple aglio e olio, add a tiny pinch of dried chili flakes at the very beginning with the garlic. Italian cooks in Naples specifically use peperoncino this way, allowing it to bloom in the oil alongside the garlic rather than adding it at the end. When chili blooms in fat, its fat-soluble heat compounds, called capsaicins, fully release into the oil and distribute evenly throughout the dish. Adding chili at the end gives you unpredictable hot spots. Blooming it early gives you consistent, gentle warmth in every single bite. Number 21. When boiling pasta, use less water than you think you need. This goes against almost every instruction ever written outside of Italy, but it is something Italian home cooks understand intuitively. Using less water, about 2/3 of what a standard recipe calls for, means the starch released by the pasta concentrates in the cooking water much more densely. That more starchy water performs dramatically better as a sauce emulsifier when you add it to the pan. The pasta itself is in no danger as long as you stir it regularly in the first 2 minutes. Number 20. Add a bay leaf to your pasta, cooking water along with the salt. This is a habit of Italian grandmothers across central and southern Italy that rarely gets discussed outside the country. The bay leaf releases aromatic oils into the water during boiling, and those aromatics are absorbed in trace amounts by the pasta as it cooks. On its own, the effect is subtle, almost indistinguishable. But combined with properly salted water and good pasta, it adds a background complexity that makes people ask what your secret is without ever being able to identify it. Number 19. When making pasta al norma, salt your eggplant slices and let them sit for at least 45 minutes before using them. Sicilian home cooks treat this step as mandatory, not optional. The salt draws out moisture from the eggplant through osmosis, which does two things. First, it prevents the eggplant from absorbing enormous amounts of oil when it hits the pan, which would make the dish greasy. Second, it concentrates the eggplant's flavor by removing the excess water that dilutes it. After 45 minutes, rinse the slices, squeeze them gently in a clean towel, then fry or roast them. Number 18. Never cook carbonara over direct heat while adding the egg mixture. This is the rule that every Roman pasta maker lives by, and breaking it is why carbonara becomes scrambled eggs outside of Italy. Take the pan completely off the heat the moment your pasta goes in, then pour in your egg and pecorino mixture while tossing constantly. The residual heat from the pan and the pasta is enough to cook the eggs gently into a creamy, velvety sauce. Direct heat makes the proteins in the egg seize and curdle immediately. Off heat with constant movement gives you silk. Number 17. When making fresh pasta, replace 1 egg yolk per egg with an additional yolk. Standard pasta dough outside Italy uses whole eggs, but Italian home cooks in Bologna typically use a higher yolk to white ratio for tagliatelle and other egg pastas. Extra yolks add fat, which keeps the gluten from developing too much, resulting in pasta that is tender and silky rather than chewy. More yolks also deepen the golden color dramatically. A dough made with extra yolks rolls thinner without tearing and has a richness and delicacy that whole egg pasta simply cannot match. Number 16. Finish your pasta off the heat with a drizzle of high-quality extra virgin olive oil right before serving. Italian chefs call this the mantecatura step, and it is done after the pasta has already been tossed in sauce. A thin final drizzle of your best finishing oil, added with the heat turned off, coats every strand in a final layer of richness and creates a glossy sheen that makes the dish look and taste restaurant quality. This is different from cooking oil. Use your finest cold-pressed extra virgin olive oil, not the cheaper cooking grade you use for sautéing. Number 15. When making a seafood pasta, finish it with a splash of white wine added directly to the hot pan 30 seconds before the pasta goes in. Italian cooks along the Amalfi Coast and in Puglia do this to create a quick reduction that concentrates the wine's acidity and aromatics into a flavorful base. The alcohol evaporates rapidly, leaving behind brightness and depth that lifts a seafood pasta out of the ordinary. Use a dry white wine, never a sweet one, and make sure the pan is hot enough that the wine sizzles aggressively the moment it hits the surface. Number 14. Use a wooden spoon to stir pasta in the first 2 minutes of cooking, not a metal one. Italian home cooks across the country prefer wooden spoons for pasta stirring because wood does not scratch the base of your pot and, more importantly, has a natural surface texture that separates strands more gently than smooth metal. The critical window is the first 2 minutes when the pasta surface is tacky with gelatinizing starch. Stir every 30 seconds during this window with a long wooden spoon, getting underneath the pasta at the bottom of the pot, and you will never have clumped pasta again. Number 13. When making pesto alla genovese, bruise your basil leaves with your hands rather than washing them under running water. Italian home cooks in Liguria, where this sauce originated, understand that cold running water slightly wilts and dulls the basil and washes away some of its aromatic oils. Instead, simply pick your leaves. Give each one a gentle squeeze between your fingers to slightly bruise it, which actually releases more of the basil's aromatic compounds, and use them immediately. If you must wash your basil, pat it completely dry with a towel and let it air out for a few minutes before using it in the pesto. Number 12. Add your pasta to a sauce that is slightly thinner than you want the final result to be. Italian chefs understand that pasta will continue releasing starch as it finishes cooking in the sauce, and that starch will naturally thicken the sauce around it. If your sauce is already at the right consistency before the pasta goes in, it will be too thick by the time everything comes together. Start slightly loose, add pasta water in small increments, and let the pasta and the starch do the thickening work for you over the final 2 minutes of cooking. Number 11. When making a tomato sauce, add a whole small onion that has been cut in half. Cook the entire sauce with it and remove it before serving. This is the technique used by Italian home cooks following the traditional Marcella Hazan approach that has been passed down across generations in northern and central Italian kitchens. The onion imparts sweetness and depth to the sauce without any of the textural presence of chopped onion. Half an hour of simmering transforms the cut surface into a soft, sweet, flavorful element that dissolves into the sauce beautifully. Remove it at the end and the sauce tastes effortlessly rounded and sophisticated. Number 10. When cooking rigatoni or any ridged pasta shape, make sure your sauce is thick enough to get trapped inside the ridges and tubes. Italian cooks choose pasta shapes deliberately to match the physical characteristics of the sauce. Rigatoni, with its ridged exterior and hollow tube, is specifically designed for chunky, thick meat sauces. The ridges provide grip for the sauce on the outside, and the hollow tube captures pools of liquid inside. If your sauce is too thin, it runs right through. A properly reduced, slightly thick sauce gets physically trapped in the pasta structure, and every bite delivers maximum flavor. Number 9. When making pasta e fagioli, mash about a quarter of the cooked beans directly in the pot before adding the pasta. This is what Italian home cooks from Campania and Veneto have done for centuries to get that characteristic creamy, thick consistency without adding any cream or thickener. The crushed beans release their starchy interior directly into the broth, creating a natural emulsion that coats the short pasta shapes perfectly. Leave the remaining beans whole for textural contrast. The pasta finishes cooking in this thickened bean broth, absorbing all of its flavor from the inside out as it does. Number 8. Never serve pasta in a preheated bowl with sauce already on top. Italian home cooks toss pasta and sauce together in the pan before it ever goes into a bowl. Pouring sauce on top of pasta in a bowl means the sauce stays on top and the bottom pasta remains under-seasoned. Tossing in the pan ensures every single piece of pasta is coated. Warm your serving bowls by filling them with hot water for 2 minutes before pouring the water out and adding the pasta. The warm bowl prevents the pasta from cooling too quickly, giving you more time to eat it at the right temperature. Number 7. When cooking pasta with clams, use the clam steaming liquid as your sauce base. Italian cooks along the Neapolitan coast never throw away this liquid. When you steam your clams open, the liquid they release is concentrated seawater mixed with the clam's natural juices, and it is intensely flavored. Strain it through a fine mesh sieve to remove any sand, then reduce it slightly in the pan with garlic and olive oil before tossing your pasta in it. This liquid is the heart of a great spaghetti alle vongole. Adding store-bought clam juice or extra salt afterward is considered completely unnecessary when you have the real thing. Number 6. When making any stuffed pasta like tortellini or ravioli, always seal the edges with a very thin layer of water applied with your fingertip, not egg wash. Italian home cooks in Emilia-Romagna, the heartland of stuffed pasta making, use water as the sealant because it creates a molecular bond between two pieces of pasta dough without adding any extra fat or protein that could prevent the bond from forming cleanly. Egg wash can sometimes cause the seam to puff and separate during cooking. Water activates the starch on the surface of the dough itself and creates a weld that holds through boiling. Number 5. When making pasta in bianco, which is pasta dressed with just butter and parmigiano, Use cold butter, cut into small cubes added off the heat. This technique is called the cold butter mantecatura, and Italian chefs use it to create a creamy, emulsified sauce from two ingredients. Cold butter, when agitated vigorously with a small amount of hot, starchy pasta water, creates a thick, creamy emulsion rather than simply melting into grease. Add 3 or 4 cubes of cold butter off the heat. Add a splash of starchy pasta water and toss constantly and vigorously until the butter disappears into a glossy, cream-like coating on every strand. Number 4. Always break the pasta break rule. Italian purists say never break spaghetti, and they are absolutely right about long pasta for traditional recipes. But here's the technique that Italian home cooks actually use when they want to cook long pasta in a broth-based dish or pasta, e fagioli with spaghetti. They break it roughly into thirds rather than halves. Breaking into thirds gives you pieces short enough to fit in a smaller pot or broth-based soup without the pieces being so short they lose the textural pleasure of long pasta. For soup specifically, this is standard practice in many Italian households and is completely accepted in that context. Number 3. When finishing pasta in a pan, tilt the pan slightly and use a rapid back and forth wrist motion rather than stirring with a spoon. This technique, called the saltare or pasta toss, is what Italian chefs use to emulsify sauce and pasta water together without the pasta absorbing all the liquid at once. The tossing motion keeps the pasta in constant movement, creates friction that helps the starch and fat emulsify, and prevents any one piece from sitting in the hot liquid long enough to overcook. It takes 30 seconds of practice to get the motion right, and once you do, your pasta will look and taste like it came from a restaurant in Rome. Number 2. When making fresh pasta dough, use Tipo 00 flour rather than all-purpose flour. Italian home cooks and pasta makers across the country specifically seek out this finely milled soft wheat flour because its lower protein content produces a dough that is extraordinarily smooth and silky and rolls to paper thin sheets without tearing. All-purpose flour has a higher protein content that develops too much gluten, resulting in dough that is springy, hard to roll, and produces a chewier pasta. Tipo 00 flour is available in most specialty stores and online, and switching to it for fresh pasta is the single ingredient change that makes the biggest immediate difference in texture. Number 1. The most important pasta trick that Italian home cooks know, and almost nobody outside Italy does, is this. Always undercook your pasta by at least 2 full minutes when you are finishing it in a pan with sauce. This is not the same as al dente. This is deliberately undercooked pasta that still has a raw, chalky center when you pull it from the boiling water. Italian chefs call this stage molto al dente, very to the tooth. You then transfer it immediately to the pan where your sauce is waiting with a generous amount of pasta water, and you finish cooking it there for exactly those 2 missing minutes. In that final stage, the pasta absorbs the sauce absorbs the starch, the whole thing emulsifies into one unified dish where the pasta and the sauce are inseparable. This is why pasta from a great Italian restaurant tastes fundamentally different from pasta cooked at home by most people. At home, people cook pasta fully in water and then add sauce on top. In Italian kitchens, the sauce is the final cooking environment. The pasta does not finish in water. It finishes in the sauce itself, absorbing every flavor as it completes its cooking. This single change, pulling it 2 minutes early and finishing in the sauce, will transform every pasta dish you make from this day forward. The question now is, which one of these are you going to try first tonight in your kitchen?